Welcome to the Exit Teams podcast, where business owners and their advisors get real-world insight on how to build a team of advisors, maximize value, and exit on their own terms. I'm your host, Bob Tankesley, author of Exit Teams, Build a Team of Advisors for Your Business Sale to Get a Higher Price. You can find that book and all kinds of content at exitteams.com. You can also order the book directly off of Amazon. Just start typing in Exit Teams, should be the first hit. Whether you're years away from selling or thinking about an exit now, this episode is packed with must-know tips to help you avoid costly mistakes. So let's dive in. Today, I'm joined by a true expert in the world of leadership assessment and improvement, Shawn Yates. Shawn is the founder of Predaxis Leadership Solutions, where he helps small and mid-sized companies strengthen execution, build leaders, and scale in a way that's attractive to buyers. As Shawn puts it, he helps companies get stuff out the door. He started his career in a true startup environment. 3 people and an idea that grew into a $10 million business with a team of 30 people before the company was acquired by Philips. From there, Shawn spent the next 25 years inside global organizations, including Philips and Siemens, building leaders and teams that get things done. He's led both build from scratch efforts and turnarounds for underperforming teams, bringing structure, clarity, and measurable results. Shawn blends the practical toolboxes of Lean, Agile, and Six Sigma, tailoring the approach to where a team is today and where it needs to get to next. And he's equally people-focused. He's a certified coactive leadership coach and a certified Lego Serious Play facilitator. His style is hands-on and human. He doesn't just diagnose problems, he engages leaders and teams to prototype solutions, build alignment, and create momentum. Today, he's bringing that enterprise experience back to his entrepreneurial roots to help growing companies improve performance, reduce risk, and my favorite part, prepare for what's next. Shawn, welcome. I'm really glad you could be on the show. I've been looking forward to this one. The issues we will talk about today, they come up again often when I'm doing M&A deals in certain sectors and industries, because let's face it, where there are people, there tends to be room for leadership improvement.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me, Bob. A great opportunity. I'm happy to be here with you.
Yep. Thanks for being on. You know, we've got business owners who listen to the podcast and advisors to business owners as well. So you'll be speaking as we broadcast this in various venues, not just to the owners, but be able to reach out to business owners you're not working with yet through the advisors that might be listening to the call. Under the heading, let's start first with under the heading of process transformation and performance. Big picture question: what performance or delivery issues do owners consistently underestimate that become visible in due diligence, or even before a deal starts to get done during routine operational reviews?
I think the one that everybody knows, but I want to touch on it because we assume that kind of thing, right? Is if the owner can't take a month off without everything falling apart, there's a huge problem. But I feel like that's common knowledge. So that's not really my answer, but that's the starting point. So hopefully they've already got that part covered. Everybody's aware of it. Um, Other thing, there's 2 parts that really stand out to me with that. And one is heroes, like the one person who kind of always does things, and even if it's not the owner, there's kind of almost a single point of failure. And the thing is, it's tough to call that a single point of failure because it's somebody who is pitching in, who loves to do what they do, but it's still one person. And most of the time, when that happens organically, there's a lot of knowledge in that one person's head that is not written down and is not transferable. And maybe that person will stay through a transition, maybe they won't, who knows? But the problem is not whether or not they stay, it's whether or not it's scalable, right? So even if that person guarantees and signs in blood and will never ever leave the company, okay, but there's still only one of them. So we can't have a hero. Heroes are bad for business. And I don't think that's super novel. The other one that I think is a little more unique that catches people off guard is infrequent processes. Something you do once a quarter, once every 6 months, once a year, those kind of things, because you do them so frequently, you're usually willing to let them be painful and poorly organized and just bad process. And so we should really focus on those things that are infrequent. And if it's periodic infrequent, at least you can predict it, but maybe it's ad hoc and infrequent. Those are the kind of things that will catch sellers and buyers unaware, right? So one thing to look for is in the past 12 months, what are things that have happened once or twice? How do we ferret those out, right? Whether it's looking at financials, looking at some kind of historical data, where can we find these events and then talk about what happened around them and make sure it's transferable, scalable, and what are we going to do with it? So those are the ones that I think more the surprise, the ones that are infrequent processes.
No doubt. Yeah, I always, whenever I take a company to market and we start talking with buyers, one of the first two or three questions, maybe the first question that buyers are asking is, I wonder what happens to this company if something happens to this person that's trying to sell it.
Yep.
Um, I think you called them a hero. Is that your definition of a hero? The person who's got all the knowledge about what's going on in the business?
Yeah, and I say the word hero because they come to the rescue, right?
Okay.
Something goes bump in the night, some team is struggling. Oh, Bob's just send Bob. Like they're like the wolf from Pulp Fiction. Oh, just send the wolf. So, but if that one person is always the hero in that scenario, again, even if they promise never to leave, it's not scalable. There's something amiss in the ecosystem, in the process if we need a hero. So that's what I meant by hero. And obviously the owner, right? Everybody knows to think about that, but look for those other people that are the heroes, right? That are stepping in to do everything.
That's really well put. I never thought about it in those terms. They're the ones who, I mean, a lot of value hinges on when
Right.
it's time to go to market.
Yep. And
And
even when I'm working with big organizations, I will find that there are pockets of two and three heroes that they're well, the thing is they're not bad people. They are literally heroes a lot of times. They're well respected, they're very smart, they're very giving, but it's that very nature that lets everybody lean on them. Now, the other side of that coin is we could talk about burnout. Those heroes will burn out, but again, they're also just not scalable.
how do you uh really going off script here? How do you replicate them? I mean, seriously, we talk about exit, here on the show, and my mind always goes to what problems is the buyer going to find before they become the owner? What problems are they going to see that just crush the deal? And I got to figure that these human elements to it, they're the biggest piece by far. But how much of what we're talking about now could have been prevented? How do you duplicate that person, that hero? How do you scale them? If you're going to say the words document processes and procedures and all that, I get it, but I got a feeling there's a bit more to it.
It is to document is the answer, right? But there's all kinds of cool new ways to document. You could, if it's a manual process, you could videotape it, right? And then feed that into AI. I'm gonna
Okay, here we
AI
go.
in this thing
Here we
in
go.
several
Yeah.
times in the next few seconds. You if it's more computer based or intangible digital, they could talk through what they're doing. Okay, now I'm going to go into the DNS record and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. They just talk through what they're doing. I'm going to say it again, feed that into AI and ask it to make a process. So it does come down to process documentation, but we have so many cool tools now of ways to do it, to video it, let them talk through it. There's one tool that will interview them. It's AI, either audio or typing. It'll ask about their job and it'll ask follow-on questions. Well, how did you know to do this? How did you know to do that? So you are aiming for document, but what you're trying to do is look at all the stuff they're doing. I love to tell this story. There was this show about it was a bar rescue show, and the team that came in to do it, the manager would do everything. And so and all the people wanted to work, but the manager kept doing everything. So if you came and asked, "Oh, Bob, can you help me with this?" Bob would just, "I'll just do it for you." So what they did, literally in this case, is they tied the manager down to a chair and said, "Okay, you're going to manage for the night. When people come to ask you for help, you must answer because you can't get out of the chair." They tied him to a chair. So I like to tell that story, and then I say, "Well, what's we're not going to tie our employees down. Don't worry, HR people. I'm not going there. But how close to that can we get? How can we say, okay, you're not allowed to touch a keyboard for a day. You have to tell other people what to type. Yep, it'll be annoying for a day. And it'll, a lot of times when I'm doing stuff, I warn owners, I say, listen, I'm going to slow you down for some period of time. Let's
Or
say
a
it's
bit
10
on the
days,
front end, right?
right? I'm going to slow you down for 10 days. But then for 10 days, you're going to get less done. But at the end of 20 days, you'll do more than you would have done in those same 20 days. But you got to ride that curve with me, right? And so that tying the person down, you can't touch a keyboard, you don't get to touch a wrench, you can't leave the shop, you can't get out of the truck, whatever it is. How do they start to put that knowledge into other people? And while it's moving to other people, again, we capture it so that it's scalable, repeatable, and improvable, by the way. If it's not written down, you can't make it any better.
So I got to imagine you don't have, be honest, you don't have 100% uptake on proposing that. You don't have owners saying, Shawn, I'm all in. Just show me where to sign and how to get started. What moves the needle have you found toward getting them to embrace something different than what they've done before? Are you painting a picture in their mind's eye? This is what your business is going to look like at some point down the road if we just put some of this stuff into practice. What are those resistance points and how do you deal with it?
Resistance is tough, right? Because it's where most owners are overwhelmed by the tyranny of the urgent, by this thing right here. But okay, but Shawn, look, I couldn't possibly let you slow me down this month, but next month I could. No, you couldn't. There's no month where you could slow down without the promise of uptake of the speed back up again, right? So um it's really over getting through that point of let's if we talk about a the longer period average, it will be higher, right? So 30 days, whatever it is. If you would have done 10 units in 30, then I'll get you to 20. But in the first 10, you're going to do way less. It's really looking at, so of course, I'll always do an assessment first. I don't make up numbers. I am very data driven. My background is engineering. So I always look at what are you doing now? I'll evaluate processes, and the evaluation won't slow you down. And we'll come up with some kind of baseline KPIs. If they already know them, that's fine. If they don't, we'll find something to measure. I can always measure something. And then we'll talk about, okay, here's what it'll look like. My estimate is this is what will happen in the first time frame, and this is what will look like in the second time frame. So I try to be very upfront. I don't want people to be surprised, right? It's part of the deal. But I always measure something, even if I'm doing leadership confidence. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you and why? And then we ask the same thing again at the end, right? Or if it's empowering teams. So even if it's a soft measure, if you will, I always measure something.
Yeah, that appeals to a lot of owners, I bet. And you've already mentioned AI, and I knew AI was going to come up in the conversation a lot. Sounds like you're using a platform of some kind. You don't have to say which one, but sounds like you're using it in practice. And I would imagine owners, because there's no off-the-shelf tool or tools that solve every problem, but by virtue of being able to go to the owner and say, "Look, we're going to be incorporating some AI into this at least a little bit." I imagine that has ticked interest up quite a bit. Really, that's cool. How are you doing this?
Yeah. Okay. So first, I do have a couple tools that I use. Um, One will make what's called a value stream map. You could call it a process map, but it's got more data on it. Another one, we can look at logs of almost any kind, and it will draw up processes and metrics and plans and improvement ideas. And both of these tools, I use them to help an owner, but then if the owner or the new buyer wants that tool, they can get it. Like I didn't make the tool, but I kind of resell it, if you will. And then all the data that we have in there so that they can keep doing more improvement projects without me. A little bit, I work myself out of a job because I want to teach other people to make improvements. Like you shouldn't need me all the time. Um, the other thing that you said, okay, they see AI as the flashy tool, and I'm okay with that what bothers me with AI is when somebody will talk to me and say, Sean, I want to use, I want to go AI. I want to use AI. Why? What problem are you solving? My competitors are using AI and I am not. That's my problem. Why? Your competitors have a blue car, you have a red car. Is that a problem? Like, so my my caution to all the business owners, buyers, sellers, growers, whatever you're doing, AI is not a goal. That's like going to work on your car and say, my goal is to use a 7/16 socket wrench. That's your goal, is to use a socket wrench? I thought your goal was to fix a flat tire. Like, so please have a goal for AI. But yes, I have several AI tools that I've incorporated into my process. And I do think AI is an awesome thing. I think in many, I won't say all, but in many cases, some form of AI or what's called robotic process automation, RPA, which is not physical robots, it's a programming thing, um, can be helpful. But you should always know what KPI you're moving and what you expect the ROI to be, because AI is going to cost you money, right? So there's got to be an ROI, like any tool you would evaluate.
Sure. I've been thinking of AI, at least in its current form, as we sit here in mid-February 2026. The consumer-based versions of AI seem to be like a helpful analyst, super good at crunching a lot of data, doing a lot of research in a short period of time. And at the end, I use chat, so maybe this is just a chat thing, but at the end, it'll suggest three or four different courses of action or, a handful of different outputs that it can generate for you. So it's an analyst that's helpful on the back end as well. And to your point, it's it's there to serve. It's not there to be the total solution by any means.
Fair, especially when it comes to chat bots, but there's some interesting things internal to companies. You can so I'm working with one group and they have a run book of processes, almost like if you were a franchise. And they sat an AI on top of that. So they told the AI, this run book is your brain. So now employees can say, oh, what's the process if I need to do this or that or the other thing? And the AI talks to them. Um, Other big thing that we're seeing a lot of is this ability for, they're called low code, no code solutions.
Yeah.
And so if you wanted to make an app to, so one that I just did for somebody recently is I built an invoicing process for them. When I say I built, I typed into chat into Claude code. I
Yep.
want to make an invoicing app. It does this and this and this. It has these fields and this and blah 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 and this, and it made an app that they're now using because they were doing invoices on Excel still. And so the thing is that is kind of democratizing the ability to create applications.
Yep.
And I say they're for internal use and smaller stuff. I don't consider the code to be secure, scalable, supportable. So I wouldn't make a sold product, but people are doing it. I wouldn't, but people are doing it. So yeah, it goes well beyond the chatbots now. There's quite an ecosystem of things available, and look into low code, no code for interesting ideas.
That's cool. Hey, switching gears, how can an owner know if their current or process maturity is a strength, not just a buzzword? So when buyers come along, they think is what this business has put in place scalable? Is it going to persist when I take over as the new owner? What does that look like?
I mean, you touched on it before. The first thing is it written down? Like, can you show me a process, whether it's a piece of paper, whether it's a sign on the wall or a computer file? Can you show me something? That's if you can't get past that, then the answer is no. The answer is no, it is not a strength. But let's say we've got a written process. How do we know it's a good process? Um, the next thing would be adherence. Can we tell that people are following it? Is there some kind of monitoring? And I don't mean like in a big brother way, but can we just tell people are following, either by watching with our eyeballs or looking at computer records? Do we know people are following it? And if the answer is no, again, it's not a strength, and most likely it's a weakness.
Great point.
Then the other thing is, when was the last time it was updated? To me, if it was more than a couple months ago, it's probably not a strength. People put these processes in place and then they forget about them. Your process, especially in today's world, we just talked about AI, your processes today, every 2, 3 months, you should at a minimum be looking at them and most likely making some tweaks to them. The only way you can improve, and those three things build on each other. Only way you can improve a process is everybody's following it. The only way you can follow a process is it's written down. And if it's not documented, there's no way to improve the process. And so a lot of times I'll come in and I'll say, look, I don't care how bad of a process we create, we're going to write it down and we're all going to follow it. And then we can move it. When I'm kind of teaching this kind of stuff, I'll draw a target, like a bullseye thing,
Yeah.
and I said, look, if nobody's following a process, you got dots spread all over that thing. It's hard to fix that.
You ask everyone, what's important to you? What's important to you? What are you working on? What do you think we need to be doing? And it's a scatter
It's
plot,
all over the place,
not a
right?
bullseye.
And so my first step, if you're into any kind of target shooting, is to create a tight grouping. All the dots are together. I don't care if they're on the bullseye. I just care that they're all together. Once they're all together, I can easily adjust them until it's on the bullseye. When they're all over the place, I can't do that, right? So we should be evaluating our processes. The only way we can do that is people are following them and we can tell. And the only way we do that is that they're written down, documented somehow.
These, I think of, well, sometimes I can think faster than I can talk. Let me throw a stat out there for the audience. I think I mentioned it to you, Shawn. 4% of companies ever sell. Yeah, let that one sink in. The
Staggering.
quick math on that is only about 20% are ever taken to market. Only about 20% of those ever transact. You sold your company a number of years ago, so congratulations, you're part of the 4% of businesses that ever get sold. And so many of these problems that buyers see, um, that they object to, that they want to, diminish the value of the business because of, were preventable. They were discoverable if the owner would only let another person come in or a team of people, which is what I'm big about, is bringing a team around the owner. Lean in on the owner, ask tough questions, collaborate, find problems, get ahead of them while the owner's got time, money, the right people, and their own health. That fourth factor has been a pretty big one the last few years. Fix these problems, optimize the company, get the company to a point where when you do take it to market, it stands out among its peers. And buyers have gotten, you know, they've got no remorse about approaching the closing date and cutting a big check. And seller, you get paid, perhaps a premium because you focused on issues long in advance of going to market. And I could see what you're talking about. Just we're on the topic of processes and documentation alone so far. I could see where that could ease a lot of buyer concern down the road when that time comes. We could flip the script as well, while we're talking about, uh, from a sell side perspective. If we want to go out and buy companies and
Yeah.
become acquisitive and grow by acquisition, not just organically, for the owners who are running companies that might want to buy in the future, how would any of your thoughts or comments or advice so far apply to them?
You know what it is? It's applying all the same answers, but I always want to say in a more predatory way, in a more opportunistic way. If
Yep.
I can come in and look at, because I've done post-merger integration too, if I come in and look and say, okay, I can see this process and I can tell it's not optimized, it's not efficient. They're running at, I don't know, like $100 per unit cost. And as a buyer's advisor, I can say, you see that $100? We could get that down to 20.
Go get it. Yeah.
So
Owner didn't
you
claim
buy
it.
it based on that cost structure. And then after the fact, let's automate this, let's remove that, let's AI the other thing. And then so what you're looking for is that value that the owner didn't see and they didn't bother to bring in their exit team, right? And so now as an entry team or a PMI, right, post-merger integration team, but when I say post-merger integration, the problem is you've already done the purchase. You want this evaluation before the purchase so that you know what are the hidden gems. You know where's, oh, I can optimize this. Oh, these two things can be combined. And the other thing is if we're talking about roll-ups, somebody who's buying multiples of things, okay, well, now I've got two IT departments, two billing departments. Where can I look for the best synergies? Do I need the capacity of both of them? Do I only need one of them? And that's another cost efficiency. So it's looking for those gems in the process that we can either improve and reduce our cost structure, reduce our time to market, and so on, or redundancies because we're doing roll-ups. And so how do we as quickly as possible ingest the pieces we need of what we've purchased? So yeah,
Yep.
absolutely can be used on both sides of that coin.
I love it. I love the thinking. Predatory, optimize, pick your term. But
Right.
to be honest, when I do buy side work, we're thinking the same thing. We're thinking what inefficiencies can we find and not have to pay for, and more importantly, what can we fix with your help
Right.
after we've done the acquisition, and then you can boost the multiple, when you go to sell at some point down the road if you
Yeah,
do.
absolutely.
I often tell owners, I'm not pushy. If you don't want to sell now, that's fine. If you don't want to buy now, that's fine. But at least move your company towards some optimized state. There's all kinds of reasons for running a business that is ready to sell or ready to buy at any point in time. All kinds of reasons. If you think about it, you can attract more capital on better terms.
Mhm.
You can
Right.
attract better employees, pay them better. You can pivot and go into geographies or markets or offer products or services you might not have otherwise been able to. You can buy up weaker competitors, as we were just talking about. All kinds of reasons to not run your company the same way. Bring in an expert to help you optimize it.
You know that the thing the thing that people miss, I'll say miss, but organic growth can be its own kind of problem because an owner has grown to where they are by doing a certain thing, by having a certain behavior, a certain mindset, and it sticks and it stays, and the success is almost part of the problem because now they don't see those opportunities, those opportunities for efficiency, the things they could gain by having more R&D, having more geography, having new markets, uh, doing other verticals, whatever the opportunities are. They're just so used to the success that they've got from what they've
Yep.
already been doing that they don't look for new ways and new things. And people think in different ways. Like each you and I and each person looks at things through their own lens, through their own experience. And so having somebody else come in and say, well, have you looked at this way can sometimes just blow people's minds, right? Because they don't think about it that way. And the fact that they're successful, they don't have to, you know.
The original title of the book was "You Need a Boss." It was, and
Nice.
BOSS was an acronym, BOSS, for Business Owner Success System. It was kind of my cheesy way of and tactful way yet at the same time to remind owners you need a system of accountability. You need somebody looking over your shoulder, though you don't work for corporate anymore. You need that person, that thing, that system to uh, guide you and keep you focused. And owners are humans too, and they get distracted and they waver and wander. And the team
Well, and it's
the team
yeah,
can be that accountability system around them. What are you, thoughts on that?
I love where you're going with that because so in addition to all the process stuff, some clients I have are just one-on-one coaching. And a lot of times what it turns out is CEOs need somebody to talk to
Yep.
because they can't and when I say talk, I mean bounce ideas around. I mean, oh, I'm thinking about this, or boy, that decision, I'm not sure about it anymore. I just need to vent and whatever. They can't talk to their employees, right? Because they don't want to shake their faith, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
If they have a board, they can't go to the board and say, I'm questioning myself, because then you won't have a boss anymore. You'll be unemployed. And so I tend to be that person. They kind of they vent a little, we brainstorm, we work through some things. Um, and so I like the tongue-in-cheek boss, but they need somebody, an accountability partner, or even just a partner to kick ideas around, to bounce ideas around, and then to say, well, I don't know, I was in the military, and so that makes me think of it this way. And they're like, I was never in the military, so I would never think of it that way. Just a different perspective. So yeah, I like that. I've had owners say it can, even at successful owners, it can be a little bit lonely at the top, right? They don't have a their peer group is hard to define. Again, they can't complain down, they can't complain up. Maybe if they got a spouse, the spouse is willing to listen, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, how well do they really know the business like the owner does?
Yeah.
They're with
Yeah.
them, from start to end, but in many cases, but do they really know it? I mentioned Agile in your bio in the opening, which is it's often seen as a software process if you think about it, but you apply it more broadly. How does organizational agility affect business rhythm, predictability, and ultimately value?
Yeah, so I mean, the truth is, Agile was born in the software development world somewhere in the early 90s or something like that. It really did start, and in the documents it says software all over the place. So that's not a bad association. There's nothing wrong with that. That's where it started. But it's definitely grown well beyond that. And we use the term business agility, organizational agility to mean having your whole organization able to be agile. And I just want to take the word apart for a second. A lot of people associate agile, the framework, the thought process with speed to market. Some people have heard this. You make a new product every 2 weeks. That's that's not correct. I've worked in medical devices. You don't make a new medical device every 2 weeks. Um, but if I just said a person is agile, it's not about how fast they can run. It's about how bendy they are, right?
Yeah.
And so that's really what agile is about, is responding to a rapidly changing environment. I wonder if we have any rapidly changing environments today between politics and AI and computing and finances and economies. None of that changes quickly, does it? Um, and so what agility is the ability to respond to those changes in a somewhat, I'll say, methodical way so that you don't feel like your hair's on fire, which is a bad analogy for me. If we're doing videos, you'll see why. Um, but what my goal with business agility, organizational agility, is to set up an operating rhythm for the company. Is it quarterly? Every quarter we have a roadmap process, or maybe it's a slow moving, like it's a utility. Okay, maybe every 6 months is good. Maybe they're a software shop. Okay, maybe every month we should do it. So the all the time frames I'm about to throw out are completely dependent on the organization. But let's say quarterly we do a road mapping process. We align our strategy to our high level tactics. Okay. Does our strategy change because of AI, because of politics, because of tariffs, because of whatever? Then we need a cadence on which we update our high level tactics. Then we take those high level tactics and break them down into actual tactics, right? Like week to week, day to day stuff. And maybe we need to do that monthly. Maybe monthly we true up our low level tactics to our mid level tactics, and quarterly we true up our mid level tactics to our strategy, right? So it depends on scale, right? Some of what I'm talking about, I'm working with organizations that have hundreds and hundreds of people. If you've got 20, okay, then everything I just said might be overkill. But how do we get into that cadence of evaluating our goals, evaluating how we're aligning to those goals and how we're taking action towards them? And what is the ecosystem around us, our clients, our tech stack, our vendors? How does all that impact, right? And so it's a this regular rhythm of looking at stuff. We also go into how to do work breakdown structures. How do you take stuff that like a year-long project and break it into quarters, break that into months, break that into weeks, and everything should line up. And then evaluate it, right? How do we change, look at what's going to happen? Because there's all kinds of stuff about planning. Two great quotes about planning. One is Winston Churchill, no plan survives first contact with the enemy, right? So you make a plan, the first thing that happens,
I think Mike
um,
Tyson had a version of that too. If I don't know if that's where you were going, but
it
but
is. Go ahead,
was
go
it,
for it. Mike Tyson.
everybody has a plan until they get when they step in the ring until they get punched in the face.
That's right. And if Mike Tyson's the one doing the punching, I bet your plan
you're
changes really fast.
you're going to adjust.
Yes, exactly. And so that's what agility is really about, whether it's team level, business unit level or organizational level, depending on scale. It's responding to change and setting up a rhythmic, methodical way to be able to do that. There's all kinds of terms and jargon I could throw at you, but that's really what it's about: responding to changes in our ecosystem, having a rhythm by which we evaluate the ecosystem and make changes and adjustments.
This is fascinating. It because if I'm a buyer and I come along and I see, financial statements are the first place I would go to as my first criteria, my first filter, if you will. Is this an opportunity that I want to, dig deeper on? Financial statements, I've come to realize, are just a report card on what management did with shareholder resources over a given period of time. P&L captures what happened throughout the year. Balance sheet shows what happens at any point in time, but it's a snapshot. Both of those statements put together tell a story. Do they tell a love story, a horror story, a feel good, a great movie where the hero always wins? But as you're talking about, um, this topic about agility, and ultimately what I want to know as a buyer is how has this base of employees, though it might have changed a little bit over time, led by this person or this small group of people, adapted to the environment that they operated in over this period of time. That's what I'm really trying to get to at
Yeah.
the end of the day, because that, if documented, if followed, if led well, that is likely to be what persists into the future, at least while I'm at the helm of it as the new owner and put my spin on things or keep, any system that you've put in place or any tracking or documentation, keep all that and just build on it. But so many buyers I know, because I hear they get frustrated. Well, this is a can of worms. They missed this opportunity. They blew up, that vendor relationship. They fired that person when they, should have promoted them. This is all fixable and all preventable and all top down in the vast majority of cases, top down decisions that led to this string of decisions that brought the company to its current state. If I was a buyer, I would love to see that um, a business that stood out among its peers, that operated well, that had become more optimized over time and was flexible enough to adapt to the changes far and away better than its peers.
Right. And
And I would put a premium on a business like that, frankly.
yeah, if you can look at a story, if you could, as a seller, say, okay, we'll use my quarterly example. Hey, every quarter we kind of look at our ecosystem and our vendors and our market. And I'm talking, I don't know, maybe a half a day exercise once a quarter. It depends. And here's the output of the last 3 quarters worth. We made these changes, we made these decisions.
Yep.
And by the way, the process for those quarterly things is written down. We know how to do it. Everybody, not only the owner knows how to run them, right? Or to facilitate it
Ah,
or whatever. There's a thing so that the owner can go, and we still have this quarterly cadence. It's embedded in the organization, right? That's what you're after. Um, and then once you have a record of those, like a trail of them, this is our operating model. This is our operating system. All you got to do is, keep putting the coins in to keep people happy.
yeah. That's what the buyer wants. They don't want a lot of disruption when they step into the shoes of the seller. We talked a bit about AI and in various capacities, but how does AI play into, the overall process improvement, especially when focusing on preparing for exit? Is it something, I mean, this is a fairly new tech that's become available to large numbers of people. Is it too early? Are there defined methods, um, ways to bring in AI that can impress? Let's go there. It can impress a future buyer. Wow, this company has done something with AI and it's meaningful and it's sticky.
So I just need clarity on, um, you mean in kind of preparing? I feel like there was one answer and then you switched it on me. So one thing I was going to talk about how to use it if you're preparing to sell or maybe preparing to buy, but then it sounded more like how have you embedded it into your operating system so you're more attractive to a buyer?
Let's go with the second part of that.
Okay. Okay. Um, So, there's trivial applications like I think you mentioned before, oh, using Claude or GPT to help me write marketing copy. Okay, I mean, everybody can do that, right? So it's really going back to, did I use it to solve a business problem in a way that is maintainable and potentially scalable? So yeah, we use it internally for whatever, for the chat thing, but um, did I set an LLM on top of a service history record, a service history database? So this is an example. I have somebody who they service equipment, they service machines. They go out, field techs go out and service machines. So they took all the service records and put an LLM on top of it. So now you can ask it, oh, this is the symptom. What's the most likely problem? And it'll say,
Wow.
oh, here's the most likely problem. And by the way, here's the parts you might need to make sure you have on the truck if that's where you're going to go. Um, so that's putting an LLM on top of some kind of proprietary knowledge base, right? Some kind of history of knowledge. Then you start to make it from reactive to predictive. So if we can start to tell, okay, these machines, when they hit about 1,000 hours of usage, one of these three things usually breaks, right? And so AI can see that pattern across thousands of service calls. It will start to notice that, and it can say, okay, hey, we should proactively replace it or sell them a maintenance plan or something. So now we're potentially actually driving incremental revenue because of the knowledge that AI can pull from our own existing data. And again, I'll go buyer side for you for a second. If a company that's selling has, I'll stay on the service record, the service of machines, they have records of all the service they've performed and they haven't stacked an LLM on top of it, then as a buyer, you should be looking at that as a gold mine. You could say, you know what? I could put an LLM on top of this big pile of data. I could start to get patterns out of it. Can I start to get
Yep.
predictions out of it? Can I monetize those predictions? So I could have a potential revenue stream in my head when I'm making a purchase. And we don't tell them that part, right? Because we're going to buy it and then we own that stack of data and then we can instrument it with AI.
Yep. Wow. You're I'm going to rewatch this podcast. This this is a good one. In terms of transition and scalability, so you put some of this stuff into place. What does it look like as companies grow? Processes and people, they don't often scale as well as technology. So what are the most common scalability gaps that you help owners fix before they become crises? We're talking, we can see the train coming down the tracks. Let's get out of the way. What are where do you
You
focus
know,
in on?
the one that I see so much, and it's really frustrating, is I'm going to go back to the heroes a little bit, but even if it's not heroes, it's this slow increment of people's workloads until they're doing one and a half person's jobs, because at any one moment I only needed a little bit more. So I asked for a little bit more, and especially at a smaller company, it's got usually more of a family, nice feel, whatever. But I keep doing that, and again, people end up at one and a half times their what should be a normal workload. And then we're tending towards burnout. But the
Yep.
other problem is
Well,
now we have a hidden cost structure.
owners tend to keep pushing. Let's get more out of the same people.
And what we end up with is a hidden cost structure, right? Because let's say, just for easy math, I've got four people doing one and a half people's jobs each. That means I need six people, right? Um, and so there's two people's worth of work being done, but not paid for. And potentially the risk to the buyer here is they come in and those people are no longer willing to do it anymore. And then what happens is we find out, well, the job descriptions, the JDs were not clear. And this extra half a person's worth of work is not written down anywhere. So it might fall through the cracks. We might need to hire the two people. And so to me, a lot of times, back to the root of the question, that the thing that gets hidden in scalability is the people needed to do things. because it creeps up over time and we don't notice it hits a threshold where we should have brought in another person, right?
Hmm.
And so now we have this cost structure that can be out of balance. You can potentially solve for that with AI and RPA and other tooling, but you got to take apart the process and understand what's happening before you know whether or not you can do that or whether you got to throw people at it.
Today's buyers would be really smart to understand that as well. Buyers, we all hear that the people inside of a company are the biggest asset, but buyers, especially in heavy capex type businesses, they tend to focus on the equipment, the big machinery, the fleet vehicles, what needs to be replaced, what's on a schedule to be replaced. But they should be taking that same approach to the people side of the business and asking themselves before they buy, who's doing what, who's doing too much, what needs to be split out here, what needs to be automated, what needs to be outsourced, and then come to a conclusion about what value means to them as a buyer.
Yep. There's an interest, there's a survey, and I think people could go find this and use it for free. It's called Utrecht. I think it's Utrecht. It's a German word. Um, and it asks people these questions like, I feel energized when I come to work. And they seem like very touchy-feely questions, but they lead towards what is the environment like? And if I remember, it's been a little while since I've seen it, but if I remember, you can tell if people are overloaded, overworked, because it doesn't already ask, are you overworked? People may or may not respond to that properly. People that are overworked may say no. People that are not overworked may be like, "Oh yeah, I'm overworked. I
Yeah.
got to work 4 hours a day." So that blunt question is not effective. But it's been a little while. But if people feel like that might be a thing for them, they should look at this Utrecht survey. But I remember the questions are they're just that I feel energized when I come to work. I'm happy when I leave. It's these questions that subtly dig at what is your work culture like?
Is that Utrecht? Is that similar to Colby?
I'm not familiar.
Colby is about a self-assessment type of questions, largely trying to get at what motivates people to perform
Okay.
well in certain environments. Sounds
It
sounds like
doesn't
it might
ask
be.
about, it doesn't drive towards what is your motivation. It drives towards what is your psychological satisfaction with your job.
Okay. So when an owner starts to plan for an exit, there's going to be people left behind. It's best that that what be left behind for the buyer to be optimized. How should leadership development and team alignment factor into getting ready for that eventual exit? Because owners are going to leave their companies eventually, right? You left yours that you sold a number of years ago. Owners are not going to own their companies forever.
Now, you know, to me, the analogy that I come up with here when I'm talking to people is driving a car. The CEO, the owner, should not be the engine. If the owner seems like they are the engine of the car, they're moving and doing, it's not right. The owner should be the driver. Their leadership team is the steering wheel. What does the steering wheel do? You move your hands a quarter of an inch on a
Mm,
steering wheel, and your car pivots by 20 degrees or whatever the numbers are. The steering wheel is an amplifier for the driver. Same thing with the gas and brake. Pick your tool. You make these tiny little movements of half inches, quarter inches, and you're moving a 2,000-pound vehicle,
yeah.
right? So the steering wheel is the leadership team. The driver is the CEO. They are in control, but they're making very small movements, very small adjustments. The leadership team is then translating that to the engine, which is the feet on the ground team, whatever it is that you're doing. And so you should, if you're buying, you're looking for it, and if you're trying to sell, you want to look for it yourself, that you have a leadership team that they're all aligned on common goals. They will there's no territory, right? IT doesn't fight for money if HR is the one who needs it. They'll willingly give each other budget or even a person where it's necessary. Um, they have the regular cadence of getting together and doing things, and their team is their number one team. That leadership team is more important than the team that they lead, and you can tell that based on their actions. It doesn't mean they don't like the team they lead, but Priority is the team they're on, not the team
Yeah.
they lead. So that amplification effect, right, of making sure it's an actual team. Just because people work together, they're not a team. Um, I always use this analogy, like if I throw a bunch of football players on the field, and even if I give them a ball, they're still not a team yet. If I tell them all, take that ball, get it to the end, run over anybody in your way. Now they're a team because they have a common goal, right? So that leadership team should have that common goal, and the leader, the CEO, should be guiding and pointing them, but not the engine of the whole thing.
To get a bit concrete around that, can you share an example like where process improvement, not just throwing new tools at people, but process improvement, it created measurable performance gains and made the business more transferable, proving to that future owner that I've got to have this business above all others that I'm looking at.
Yeah, and I'll kind of circle back to where you said Agile is associated with software. So a fair number of my clients are software development shops. It's not the only thing, but a fair number of them. Um, and when I started with this group, really they were very fractured in they had kind of two different development focuses. I'm going to use not analogies, but I got to I got to obfuscate the data a tiny bit. But let's say they were making a mobile app and a desktop app, and
Okay.
basically the two development teams they each had their own number one priority, and there were some shared resources between them. And so what happened is the shared resources were continually going back and forth between the two, and neither team could deliver predictably, and then both of them had quality problems. And so what I came in and did is create a prioritization process that allowed us to prioritize dissimilar efforts across the two different business units. So now we had one priority list. We did minor changes to the team structure. So we took some of the shared resources and embedded them in the two different groups, but we still kept a shared resource because they owned a platform between the two of them. And this so between training and getting processes in place, I mean, we started to see changes in about 2 months. It took about 6 months to like get to full effort, full uh, really good ROI. This is a team of like 200 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a big R&D team. At the end of the day, they meet 80% of their commitments every quarter.
Nice.
I was gonna say 80 may not sound good, but when I got there, it was well under 50.
I bet.
So they meet my benchmark is 80. If we can meet 80% of our commitments with quality and predictability, 80 is a good number.
Because you're
Sometimes
instituting change and there's going to be resistance, there's going to be adaptation.
right. And the other thing to keep in mind is if they commit to a goal in the beginning of a quarter and the business changes that goal, we count it as not met. Sometimes goals, it's still not met, right? This was the goal and we didn't meet it, but we did it on purpose. But still, I always then go to the business side and say, well, why did you set that goal? Why did it change? Could we have prevented or predicted that change? And sometimes
Mm.
the answer is no. Sometimes the answer is like, yeah, maybe we could have. So we got to 80% predictability. We got to I won't say 100, but very few, if any, really critical defects hit the field because we improved their QA process also. So now you've got a delivery team that is hitting their goals, that's delivering quality, and is able to respond to change from the business as it comes.
Yep.
Right. So huge impact, very, very good, and just a lot of fun on the way.
It's a larger version, I guess, of that example you gave, at the top of the show about, hey, I'm gonna slow you down for 10 days, but by the 20th day, you're going to notice substantial improvements.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
That's
When I'm
that's
dealing with
phenomenal.
bigger organizations, like you just those timelines are just bigger, right? To get around to even meet 100 people, 200 people, it just takes forever. Smaller groups, 10, 15 people, yeah, we're definitely much quicker. And they're generally more nimble to begin with, you know.
Yeah. Well, hey, as we start winding things down here, for an owner who's thinking about exit the next 2 to 3 years, which has kind of become my go-to response when people say, Bob, how long should should I take to get my company ready? I'm saying about 2 to 3 years. I mean, 2 to 3 years is effectively now, if you think about it. What
Yeah.
are the first process improvement actions that they should take, or action or actions they should take this month? Just get on it. Just get people behind it and make it happen.
I mean, we've mentioned this a lot that what buyers are looking for is repeatability and scalability. So
Yep.
identify the key operations in your organization. I mean, you could start, if I talk general, everybody's got idea to market, market to order, order to cash, like three big chunks of steps. Find the ones that are your key differentiators, the ones that are like your unique
Mm,
sauce. Where's your secret sauce? Which one of those three categories is it in? And really make sure that the processes pick one process and a KPI. We want to have faster handling of service calls. We want to have shorter time to market. We want to have more connections on our website. Whatever it is, find one pretty well contained metric, document one process that impacts that, and then make sure we go back to those three steps. Document it, make sure people are following it, and then improve it, right? How are you going to make that KPI better? Get that KPI to in a reasonable range, wash, rinse, repeat. Find the next thing, find the next thing. Don't try to go document everything all at once. Just pick one thing, one clear KPI, start making some improvements. Also, don't try to drive that KPI to world class.
yep.
If you've got one that's basically junk at the moment, let's try to get it to good enough, right? From an F to a C. Then go do the next thing. If you've got a bunch of Fs, then C's are great, right? So get
Yeah.
something to a C, leave it. Get something to a C, leave it, right? The same kind of thing. So
All
start
depends on,
small, repeatable.
yep. All depends on where you start from. How often are you finding owners say, I'm addicted to this improvement thing. Let's go forward. Let's this was a challenging experience, a little bit disappointing, but rewarding, whatever the feedback you get. How often do they then come back and say, let's do more?
So at first I was thought you were asking how many do I find that are already that way, and I was going to say none because they're already
Done.
doing this. They don't need me, so I don't find them. But then at the end you made it okay. How do they get there? Um, a very high percentage. I don't know how to answer. And again, sometimes it is they bring me back in, and sometimes I just end up being a coach for them. I meet with them once a week, once every couple of weeks, give them some ideas, look at what they're doing. Because I tried again, the software, the AI that I use, I can sell them a license to it. They can go do it. I can teach them to do these things. If they need me to do every little improvement, then there's still something wrong.
Yep.
But some of them have bigger initiatives, and I have a lot of experience, and so I've seen things they haven't seen. Um, but everybody wants to do more, and my goal is to empower the leader and then the leadership team and even the individual contributors to have this whole Kaizen. I'm going to throw a word at you, Kaizen, that comes out of lean, and
Kaizen.
it
Yep.
means changes for the better. A whole Kaizen culture, right? Everybody's always making little improvements. They don't need me anymore, except for maybe big giant things. So everybody's like, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? They don't all end up needing me for everything, and I'm cool with that. I'm good with that. I want to empower them to keep moving on. But for the for the most part, they all keep in touch with me at some level, an email here and there, coaching here and there, things like that. I leave a trail of people that like me.
Right. That's important. A good day's work. Well, Shawn, this has been awesome. As I said before, I'm going to rewatch this one. This was a good one. A lot packed in here. Where can folks get a hold of you to hear more about this good work that you can do for small and mid-sized companies?
So the website is Predaxis. It's a made up word. The word is P R E
I
D
was
A
wondering about
X
that.
I S. Yeah, it's
PRE. I'm
D
sorry,
A
I
X,
interrupted you. I was wondering about the
right?
derivation of that word.
And if people are looking, it's up there. PREDAXIS.com. And you can email me Shawn, SHAWN. And I'm on LinkedIn. I think somebody's gonna put my handle down here. I think it's SJ Yates or something like that. Um, So it's a play on the word praxis, and praxis is a very academic word that means to take theory and put it into practice. And the reason I like that word is because I have a lot of academia knowledge. I've been certified in a bunch of stuff, including playing with Legos. Um, but I take it beyond that and bring it to the real world of like, okay, I know the book says we need to do this, but looking at how you're set up, we ought to do it slightly different than that book tells us. And so the idea of taking theory and putting it into praxis is praxis. Literally, I just put the D in there because I thought it sounded cool. That's
Nice.
that is
And
all it
the
is.
domain name was available, right?
That's right. And because it's a made up word, the domain name is available. The word praxis.com is some consulting company in, I don't know, California or something like that. See, make sure you put the D in there or you won't get me. You'll get somebody else. Well,
Cool.
because I think the actual word is Praxis. So I put the E and the D in there.
Nice. Excellent. Well, hope everyone got as much out of this as I did. That's a wrap for today's episode of the Exit Teams podcast. A big thank you to my guest, Shawn Yates, for sharing his insights. So if you run a company that needs leadership improvement, getting ready for sale, or buying another company, I suggest you reach out to Shawn and see how he can help. If you're a business owner thinking about your next chapter, now is the time to start building your advisory team. You can learn more in my book, Exit Teams, Build a Team of Advisors for Your Business Sale to get a higher price, available on Amazon. And don't forget to visit exitteams.com for free resources, tools, and a master class that can help you prepare for a successful future and exit. Until next time, build your team, sell smart, and take control of your future.